Hello, welcome to the 5th grade packet review for the week of 3/30/2020. We're starting on page 9 of your packet with rounding decimals. All right, so to begin, it says round each decimal to the nearest tenth. So in each one, we're going to look at the tenths. Right now I have 3 tenths, but I want to decide, is 32 hundredths closer to having 3 tenths, or is it closer to having 4 tenths? So to do that, I'm going to look at my hundredths. Right now I have 2 hundredths. Is 2 hundredths closer to having 0 or 10? So would it round down to 0 or up to 10? If you were to think of 2 in a number line between 0 and 10, 2 is closer to 0, so it's going to round down to 0. So I know in my answer, my hundredths place is going to be a 0. All right, did my 3 tenths change if I rounded this 2 down to 0? No, so I'm going to keep my 3 tenths as 3 tenths. And my whole number place didn't change either. So my answer for this one would be 0 and 30 hundredths. All right, let's try rounding one to the nearest hundredth. Okay, on this one, we're now going to be rounding to the hundredths place, which is, here's the tenths, so this is the hundredths. Right now we have 7 hundredths and 9 thousandths. So we're going to use the thousands to decide if our 7 hundredths are going to stay 7 or round up to 8. If I have 9 in the thousandths place, is that closer to having 0 or up to 10? 9 is closer to rounding up to 10. So on this one, I'm rounding up. That's going to change some things. When I'm rounding up to 10, I can't write 10 thousandths in the same place value. A place value only holds 1 digit. So I have to regroup, just like when I'm adding and subtracting numbers. So the 7 hundredths, if I regroup this 10 thousandths into the hundredths, I'm going to add 1 to my 7 hundredths that I already had. So my thousandths place is going to stay 0. My hundredths place, if I had 7 and I'm adding 1 more, is going to be 8. And my tenths place didn't change, so it's remained 0, and my whole number place didn't change. So let's see. So there we go. So 1 and 79 thousandths is going to round to 1 and 80 thousandths, or really 1 and 8 hundredths. You could just write it like this. You don't need that 0 in the thousandths place. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Multiplying multi-digit whole numbers. The directions say to estimate, then circle all the problems with products between 3,000 and 9,000. Then find the exact products of only the products you circled. All right, first thing it says to do is estimate. To estimate when we're multiplying, we're going to round these numbers first. So I'm going to round 34 to 30 to the nearest 10. And then I'm going to round 132 to 100. So I'll round it to the closest 100. All right, if I was to multiply 100 times 30, I know 3 times 1 is 3, and then I know it'll be 10, 100, 1,000 times bigger, 3,000. All right, and really I had more because I had 132. So is this going to be 12? I would say yes. Okay, then it says to find the exact products of only the problems that you circled. So since I circled this problem, I'm now going to multiply and find the exact product. So I'm now going to go through the steps of multiplying using this standard algorithm. So start with my ones times my ones. So 4 times 2 is 8. Now my ones times my tens. 4 times 3 is 12. Write the 2, and I'm going to regroup the 1 into the hundreds place because I was just multiplying with the tens. 4 times 1 is 4, and then plus 1, 5. So 5 in my hundreds place. Now I'm done multiplying with my ones. So I'm going to put a 0 here in my second partial product because now I'm going to be multiplying with 3 tens, and all of my products when I multiply with tens are going to end in a 0. So now I'm going to start with my first answer here. Let me switch. All right, 3 times 2. So the tens now times the ones. 3 times 2 is 6. Then 3 times 3 is 9. I already added this one before, so I'm done with that one. And then 3 times 1 is 3. If I add up my two partial products, I now get 8 plus 0 is 8. 2 plus 6 is 8. 5 plus 9 is 14. So I write the 4, regroup the 1 to the thousands, and 3 plus 1 is 4. So 4,488, which is between 3,000 and 9,000. And then you'll continue the rest of the page to finish those problems. All right, moving on. Multiplying with the standard algorithm is our next page. The directions say the answers are mixed up at the bottom of the page. Cross out the answers as you complete the problems. So you're going to solve each problem with regular multiplication. And at the bottom, you should be able to find the answer that matches what you just solved. So let's begin a little bigger. All right. So 580 times 30. Just like before, I'm going to start with multiplying my ones times my ones. So 0 times 0. 0. Now my ones times my tens, so 0 times 8, 0, and then my ones times my hundreds. 0 times 5 is 0. All right, now I am moving on to starting with my tens. So I'm going to have a 0 in my ones down here because I'm now multiplying with tens. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 8 is 24. I write the 4, regroup the 2 to the hundreds. And then 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17. Okay, add up my two partial products. The ones place will be 0. Tens will be 0. 4 in my hundreds. 7 in my thousands. And 1 in my 10,000s. So 17,400. And if I was to scroll to the bottom of the page, 17,400 is right here. So I would cross it out. I would know that I was probably correct. The next page is use estimation and area models to divide. Check each answer by multiplying the divisor by the quotient. If the answer is incorrect, cross out the answers and write the correct answer. Okay, so let's begin. Let me get a little bigger. So it says check each answer by multiplying the divisor by the quotient. All right, so in the first one, the answer they gave you was 48. This is the divisor in each problem, the number that you're dividing by. And they say to multiply the divisor by the quotient. So here's the divisor, and here is the quotient, the student answer. So you would multiply these to see if you get the dividend. This one they already started for you, 12. 12 times 48 is 576, which is not the dividend, so they're saying this one's wrong, so you have to cross out the answer and then write the correct answer by solving. So let's do the second one. So I'm going to multiply the divisor, 31, times the quotient, 27. And I'm looking to see if I get 837. All right, 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 3 is 21. And there's nowhere to regroup. Since I only have a tens place, I'm writing both the numbers of 21. All right, then now I'm going to do the tens place. So I'm done with the ones. Put my 0 in my ones place because I'm now starting in the tens. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. All right, 7 plus 0 is 7. 1 plus 2 is 3. And 6 plus 2 is 8. So this one is correct. So that one we don't have to resolve. So you will continue down the page, and any that you find that are incorrect, you need to find the correct answer. Okay, and now we have using area models and partial quotients to divide. So you can divide using any method you want. It says first to estimate, and then circle all the problems that will have quotients greater than 30, and then find the exact quotients of only the problems that you circled. All right. Oops. So first thing it says to do is estimate. When you're estimating with division, you can round each your dividend and your divisor so that you can get an answer that you found mentally without having to do all the work first to see if your answer is going to be close to the real answer. All right, so the first one, let's keep the divisor at 12 because that's a basic number that I can already work with easily. And then I'm going to look for something compatible with 12 that I can change 540 to, that I can estimate it to. So if I'm thinking of my 12s, I know 12 times 10. No, I'm sorry. 12 times 6 is 72. That's too big. So how about 12 times 5? 12 times 5 is 60, which is again too big. So then we could try 12 times 4, which is 48. 48, so 480 would probably be the closest multiple of 12 that we could use in this problem. So if I did 480 divided by 12 mentally, I know 12 times 4 is 48. So then 12 times 40 would be 480. So will it have a quotient greater than 30? If my estimate is 40, that's greater than 30. So this would be one that I would circle, and then I would find the exact quotient. So I'm going to go over to the side and find the exact quotient. And I'll do it 2 ways because I know some students are using different ways for division. So 540 divided by 12. 540 divided by 12. And I'm going to start with partial quotients. So now I'm going to divide the real problem to see what my actual quotient is. So I'm going to think 12 times what will get me closest to 540? Well, I already did all this mental math up here. I know that 12 times 4 is 48. So 12 times 40 would be 480. So I'm going to do 40 as the first number I'm going to multiply 12 with to get close to 480. So if I'm thinking this as like 540 students and I'm putting them onto 12 buses, I could start by putting 40 students on each bus. Now remember, if you want to just start by doing 10 or 30, that's okay. It's just going to be more steps if you use a smaller number, but it's not wrong. As long as you end up with the same number of students as me, partial quotients will work either way. All right, so if I put 40 students on each bus and there are 12 buses, 40 times 12 is 480. All right, let's see how many students are left. 0. 4 minus 8 can't do it, so I'm going to regroup, make this 4 hundredths, and make this 14 tenths. 14 minus 8 is 6. And then 4 minus 4 is 0, so that's just 60 students are left. If I have 60 students and I want to put them onto 12 buses, I could put 5 students onto each bus. 12 times 5 is exactly 60, so all the students are now on a bus. There are 0 students left over, and the total number of students on each bus is 40 the first time, and then I put 5 more, so the quotient would be 45, and that would be my answer for this problem. You could also use long division, so I'm going to come over here and use the standard algorithm or long division. I know that some of your teachers have showed you this, so I'm going to go ahead and use this method as well. All right, with long division or standard algorithm, we start by saying 12 can go into 5 how many times? It can't because 5 is smaller than 12. Okay, so 12 can go into 54 how many times? 54 divided by 12 would be 4. Four times 12 is 48. Then I'm going to subtract to see how many left. 54 minus 48. So 14 minus 8 is 6. And then I'm going to bring down my 0. And if you know this method, you probably know dad, mom, sister, brother, Red Rover. So I did divide 12 into 54. I multiplied 4 times 12, subtracted right here, and now I'm going to bring down the 0. Now I'm going to go through repeat or remainder. I'm going to repeat since this number down here is still bigger than my divisor. So divide again. 60 divided by 12 is 5. Now multiply. 5 times 12 is 60. Now subtract. 0. Bring down. There is nothing else to bring down. So then this would be my remainder if I had anything left. But I don't, so my quotient is just 45. So either method, we got the same answer. All right, then you start into your science packet. In your science packet, you have the first page of Nature of Science to fill out. Specify the independent, the dependent variable, and the controlled variable, and it tells you at the top what those mean. Then you can measure the volume in each cylinder, so look where the blue line crosses and figure out what amount that is. Then you're going to match these definitions. And then write volume or mass next to each one of these. Remember, volume is the amount of space, and mass is the amount of matter. Then an example of a mixture. What are 3 properties that you can separate this mixture into? And 3 ways to speed up the dissolving rate. 3 ways that you could speed up the dissolving of anything. Sugar into water. What are 3 ways that you could make it dissolve faster? Changes in matter. You're going to write what a physical change is in an example, and then what a chemical change is in an example. Then they ask you a question about a marshmallow being toasted. And then a mechanical energy map. So you're going to write what the meaning of potential energy is, the meaning of kinetic energy, and then fill in the blanks for the rest of this. What transfer of energy is this an example of? So a fan would be an example of what kind of energy being changed into what other kinds. Force and motion review, opposites attract. If you put 2 magnets together, with what kind of poles will make them attract? And then more on magnets. Then you have some questions on forces. They want you to list real-world examples and then draw a picture of that example. If you had a beach ball and a basketball, you could write their mass, or about how much you think their mass would be, and then how was the roll of each ball affected by its mass. So as you rolled them, what did you notice based off of their mass? Which objects are unbalanced and why? Which objects are balanced and why? So you would explain like 2 objects that you could put together on a seesaw, for instance, or on a balance scale, and which ones would balance each other and which ones would not. Explain what a galaxy is made of. Fill in the blanks below using these words above. Draw an example of rotation and revolution. Answer this question. Complete the water cycle using the correct words. So you would label condensation, evaporation, precipitation, runoff. Describe each of these cloud types and what kind of weather would be present with those clouds. Fill in the blanks with definitions about each one of these weather factors and the tool that it's used to measure it. Finding the difference between weather and climate. And then explaining the temperature, humidity, precipitation, and an example of environment of each of these climate zones: polar, temperate, and tropical. Label the plant parts and the function of this flower. And then explain the function of each one of these human body systems or organs. Fill in the blanks about metamorphosis. Draw and label the stages of a grasshopper's life cycle, the stage of a plant's life cycle, and then place H for herbivore, C for carnivore, or O for omnivore over each animal below or plant. Draw a picture of a food chain and labeling them, whether they're producer or consumers. Explain what weathering is, and then how each of these different causes weathering. Same thing with erosion. And then complete this renewable and non-renewable resource sort, where you sort each of these words into the columns. Complete the matching of the mineral and rock review. Explain how each type of rock is formed. And that's it. Adaptation review seems to have been left off. You can find information about all of these science concepts on BrainPop, neok12.com, which is neok12.com, Study Jams, or you could search on YouTube for each topic. All right, I hope this was helpful. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact the school or to contact your child's teacher. Many of us have Google Voice phone numbers that you can call during the day, anytime between 8 and 3:20. Just call the school to get that information. Thank you.